Welcome to the Faithful Quiz. Today's challenge will take you on a journey through the entire New Testament, from the book of Matthew to Revelation. These 20 tough New Testament questions will test your knowledge on apostles, miracles, and the words of Jesus. Get 15 right, and you've got a solid foundation. Get 20, and you are a true New Testament scholar. Before we begin, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next challenge. Let's start the quiz question 1. Which book of the New Testament contains the only reference to the archangel Michael disputing with the devil over the body of Moses? A. 2 Peter, B. Jude, C. Revelation. You get 7 seconds. That B. Jude. The short book of Jude, verse 9, briefly mentions this dispute. Question 2. What was the name of the man, full of the Holy Spirit, whom Paul ordained as a bishop and instructed to take heed unto the ministry which thou hast received in the Lord? A. Titus, B. Silas, C. Archippus. You get 7 seconds. That's C. Archippus. Colossians 4:17 is the sole verse where this command is given. Say to Archippus, take heed to the ministry which you have received in the Lord, that you may fulfill it. Question 3. What specific part of his clothing did the woman with an issue of blood touch to be healed by Jesus? A. The hem. B. The tassel. C. The cloak. You get 7 seconds. That's B, the tassel. The Greek word used is often translated as fringe or hem, but it refers to the Jewish ceremonial tassel, tzitzit, that marked his garment, as recorded in Matthew 9:20 and Mark 6:56. Question 4. In Acts, who was the prophet that tied Paul's belt around his own feet and hands to predict Paul's arrest in Jerusalem? A. Agabus, B. Stephen, C. Barnabas. You get 7 seconds. That's A. Agabus. Acts 21:10-11 describes Agabus the prophet dramatically demonstrating what would happen to Paul when he went to Jerusalem, a prophecy in the New Testament. Question 5. Which gospel writer mentioned that Jesus rode on both a donkey and a colt simultaneously when entering Jerusalem on Palm Sunday? A. Matthew, B. Mark, C. Luke. You get 7 seconds. That's A. Matthew. Matthew 21:7 is unique in saying the disciples brought the donkey and the colt, laid their clothes on them, and set him on them. The verse fulfills a literal reading of the prophecy in Zechariah 9:9. Question 6. What specific item did the soldiers at the crucifixion offer Jesus to drink before he died? A. Vinegar mixed with gall, B. Wine mixed with myrrh, C. Sour wine on a sponge. You get 7 seconds. That's C. Sour wine on a sponge. While multiple drinks were offered, John 19:29-30 specifically mentions they put a sponge full of sour wine on hyssop and put it to his mouth. This fulfilled Psalm 69:21. Question 7. According to the book of Acts, what was the name of the person raised from the dead by Peter in Joppa, whose name means gazelle? A. Lydia, B. Eunice, C. Tabitha. You get 7 seconds. That's C. Tabitha. Acts 9:36-41 introduces Tabitha, or Dorcas in Greek, a devout woman known for her good works who was brought back to life by Peter. Question 8. Which apostle, besides Peter, was present with Jesus during the Transfiguration? A. John and James. B. Andrew and Philip. C. Thomas and Nathaniel. You get 7 seconds. That's A. John and James. The 3 disciples taken up the mountain for the Transfiguration were Peter, James, and John. Matthew 17:1. Question 9. What was the name of the city from which Apollos, the eloquent and knowledgeable preacher, originated? A. Corinth. B. Ephesus. C. Alexandria. You get 7 seconds. That's C. Alexandria. Acts 18:24 describes Apollos as a Jew, born at Alexandria, an eloquent man and mighty in the scriptures. Alexandria was a major center for Hellenistic Judaism and scholarship. Question 10. In his final letter, Paul instructed Timothy to bring him 2 specific items, one of which was his cloak. What was the other item? A. The sacred scrolls. B. The parchments. C. A book of hymns. You get 7 seconds. That's B. The parchments. 2 Timothy 4:13 is a very personal request. Bring the cloak that I left with Carpus at Troas when you come, and the books, especially the parchments. These parchments were likely copies of scripture or important documents. Question 11. What was the name of the man who secretly went to Jesus at night and later helped Joseph of Arimathea bury Jesus' body? A. Zacchaeus. B. Nicodemus. C. Gamaliel. You get 7 seconds. That's B. Nicodemus. John 3:1-2 tells of Nicodemus, a Pharisee and member of the Sanhedrin, visiting Jesus under the cover of darkness. John 19:39 mentions him bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes for the burial. Question 12. Which New Testament book is addressed to Gaius, a man whom I love in truth? A. 1 John. B. 2 John. C. 3 John. You get 7 seconds. That's C. 3 John. 3 John is a very brief personal letter where the author, identified as the elder, addresses the recipient, Gaius, in the opening verse. Question 13. In the book of Acts, Paul and Barnabas were mistakenly worshipped as 2 Greek gods in Lystra. What gods were they thought to be? A. Apollo and Hermes. B. Zeus and Hermes. C. Ares and Poseidon. You get 7 seconds. That's B. Zeus and Hermes. Acts 14:11-12 records the crowd calling Barnabas Zeus, Jupiter, and Paul Hermes, Mercury, because Paul was the chief speaker. Question 14. What was the name of the location where Paul was imprisoned and wrote the letter to Philemon? A. Corinth. B. Rome. C. Ephesus. You get 7 seconds. That's B. Rome. The prison epistles, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon, were written by Paul while he was under house arrest in Rome, Philemon 1:9. Question 15. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, where was the man traveling from and to when he was attacked by robbers? A. From Jerusalem to Samaria. B. From Jericho to Jerusalem. C. From Jerusalem to Jericho. You get 7 seconds. That's C. From Jerusalem to Jericho. Luke 10:30 specifies the dangerous route the man was taking, which descended significantly in altitude and was known for banditry. Question 16. What was the name of the woman, a seller of purple fabric, who was Paul's first convert in Philippi and offered her home as a gathering place? A. Phoebe. B. Priscilla. C. Lydia. You get 7 seconds. That's C. Lydia. Acts 16:14 describes Lydia, a wealthy businesswoman from Thyatira, whose heart the Lord opened to Paul's message. Question 16. What was the name of the woman, a seller of purple fabric, who was Paul's first convert in Philippi and offered her home as a gathering place? A. Phoebe. B. Priscilla. C. Lydia. You get 7 seconds. That's C. Lydia. Acts 16:14 describes Lydia, a wealthy businesswoman from Thyatira, whose heart the Lord opened to Paul's message. Question 17. Which disciple was directed by Jesus to catch a fish in the sea, and inside its mouth he found a coin to pay their taxes? A. Andrew. B. Peter. C. Philip. Now, you get 7 seconds. That's B. Peter. Matthew 17:27 contains this unusual command and miracle where Jesus provided the exact amount of money needed for the temple tax. Question 18. In his letters, Paul wrote a personal note urging the church in Colossae to forgive and welcome back which runaway slave? A. Epaphras. B. Onesimus. C. Tychicus. You get 7 seconds. That's B. Onesimus. The entire book of Philemon is a letter from Paul requesting Philemon to receive his runaway slave, Onesimus, back no longer as a slave, but more than a slave, a beloved brother. Philemon 1:16. Question 19. Which of the Gospels begins with a long genealogy tracing Jesus' lineage back to Abraham? A. Mark. B. Luke. C. Matthew. You get 7 seconds. That's C. Matthew. Matthew 1:1 begins by stating, the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham, then traces the line back to Abraham. Question 20. Who was the governor of Crete, whom Paul left there specifically to set in order the things that are lacking and appoint elders in every city? A. Titus. B. Timothy. C. Demas. You get 7 seconds. That's A. Titus. Titus 1:5 explains the reason for the letter. Paul left Titus on the island of Crete to organize the churches and select proper leadership. Question 1. Who stretched out his hand and touched the ark of God and was struck dead? A. Uzziah. B. Uzzah. C. Abinadab. The answer is B. Uzzah. 2 Samuel 6:7. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God smote him there for his error, and there he died by the ark of God. Question 2. What weapon did Jael use to kill Sisera? A. A spear. B. A tent nail and hammer. C. A sword. The answer is B. A tent nail and hammer. Judges 4:21. Then Jael Haber's wife took a nail of the tent and took an hammer in her hand and smote the nail into his temples and fastened it into the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary. So he died. Question 3. Why did Moses break the first set of tablets of stone? A. He was angry at Israel's idolatry. B. He slipped while carrying them. C. They were too heavy. The answer is A. He was angry at Israel's idolatry. Exodus 32:19. And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh unto the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing. And Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount. Question 4. Who cursed the day of his birth? S.E. Jeremiah. B. Job. C. Elijah. The answer is B. Job. Job 3:1. After this opened Job his mouth and cursed his day. Question 5. How many days did Goliath present himself before Israel challenged him? A. 30 days. B. 20 days. C. 40 days. The answer is C. 40 days. 1 Samuel 17:16. And the Philistine drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. Question 6. Who was the king that had his thumbs and great toes cut off? A. Adonibezek. B. Sihon. C. Og. The answer is A. Adonibezek. Judges 1:6. But Adonibezek fled, and they pursued after him, and caught him, and cut off his thumbs and his great toes. Question 7. What river did Naaman wash in to be healed of leprosy? A. Abana. B. Jordan. C. Pharpar. The answer is B. Jordan. 2 Kings 5:14. Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. Question 8. Who was eaten by dogs as the prophet had foretold? A. Jezebel. B. Athaliah. C. Goliath's armor-bearer. The answer is A. Jezebel. 2 Kings 9:36. Wherefore they came again and told him. And he said, This is the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, In the portion of Jezreel shall dogs eat the flesh of Jezebel. Question 9. What was Samson's riddle about? A. Fire from heaven. B. Honey from a lion. C. Water from a rock. The answer is B. Honey from a lion. Judges 14:14. And he said unto them, Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness, and they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. Question 10. Who was swallowed up by the earth for rebelling against Moses? A. Nadab and Abihu. B. Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. C. Balaam. The answer is B. Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Numbers 16:32. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, in their houses and all the men that appertained unto Korah and all their goods. Question 11. Who were the 2 spies that brought a good report from Canaan? A. Joshua and Caleb. B. Caleb and Aaron. C. Joshua and Eleazar. The answer is A. Joshua and Caleb. Numbers 14:6. And Joshua the son of Nun, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes. Question 12. Who mocked the prophet Elisha by calling him bald head and was punished? A. 12 young men. B. 42 children. C. A group of priests. The answer is B. 42 children. 2 Kings 2:23-24. There came forth little children out of the city, and mocked him, and said unto him, Go up, thou bald head. And there came forth 2 she-bears out of the wood, and tare 40 and 2 children of them. Question 13. What did Lot's wife become when she looked back at Sodom? A. A pillar of salt. B. A stone. C. Dust. The answer is A. A pillar of salt. Genesis 19:26. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Question 14. Who interpreted Pharaoh's dream of 7 fat and 7 thin cows? A. Joseph. B. Daniel. C. Moses. The answer is A. Joseph. Genesis 41:25. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God hath showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. Question 15. What did Gideon ask for as a sign from God with the fleece? A. Rain on the ground, only. B. Dew on the fleece, only. C. Fire from the sky. The answer is B. Dew on the fleece only. Judges 6:37. Behold, I will put a fleece of wool in the floor, and if the dew be on the fleece only, and it be dry upon all the earth beside, then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said. Question 16. Who built an ark of gopher wood? A. Abraham. B. Noah. C. Enoch. The answer is B. Noah. Genesis 6:14. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without with pitch. Question 17. Who killed a lion in a pit on a snowy day? A. Samson. B. Benaiah. C. David. The answer is B. Benaiah. 2 Samuel 23:20. And Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, he went down also and slew a lion in the midst of a pit in time of snow. Question 18. What king had a writing appear on the wall during a feast? A. Nebuchadnezzar. B. Belshazzar. C. Darius. The answer is B. Belshazzar. Daniel 5:5. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the pleister of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Question 19. Who slew Goliath's brother Lami? A. David. B. Elhanan. C. Abishai. The answer is B. Elhanan. 1 Chronicles 25. And there was war again with the Philistines, and Elhanan the son of Jair slew Lami the brother of Goliath the Gittite, whose spear staff was like a weaver's beam. Question 20. What did the wise woman of Abel do to save her city? A. Offered her son. B. Gave up the king's scrolls. C. Threw a man's head over the wall. The answer is C. Threw a man's head over the wall. 2 Samuel 20:22. Then the woman went unto all the people in her wisdom, and they cut off the head of Sheba and cast it out to Joab. Question 1. Who was the first person in Genesis to plant a vineyard? A. Enoch. B. Noah. C. Lamech. You get 7 seconds. That's B. Noah. Genesis 9:20 says, And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. Question 2. Who was the first man mentioned to be a mighty hunter before the Lord? A. Esau. B. Nimrod. C. Tubal-Cain. You get 7 seconds. That's B, Nimrod. Genesis 10:9 says, "He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord." Question 3. Who were the two sons of Eber mentioned in Genesis? A, Peleg and Joktan. B, Shem and Ham. C, Mizraim and Cush. You get 7 seconds. That's A, Peleg and Joktan. Genesis 10:25 says, "And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan." Question 4. Which king was defeated by Chedorlaomer and his allies in Genesis 14? A, Bera, king of Sodom. B, Pharaoh. C, Abimelech. You get 7 seconds. That's A, Bera, king of Sodom. Genesis 14:2 lists Bera, king of Sodom, among those who joined battle in the Vale of Siddim. Question 5. Who was the father of those that dwell in tents and have cattle? A, Jabal. B, Jubal. C, Tubal-Cain. You get 7 seconds. That's Eki-Jabal. Genesis 4:20 says, "And Ada bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents and of such as have cattle." Question 6. Which land was said to have good gold, bdellium, and onyx stone? A, Havilah. B, Cushim. C, Nod. You get 7 seconds. That's A, Havilah. Genesis 2:11-12 says, "The name of the first is Pison. It compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good." Question 7. Who was the first person in Genesis said to walk with God? A, Seth. B, Enoch. C, Noah. You get 7 seconds. That's B, Enoch. Genesis 5:24 says, "And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him." Question 8. How many years did Lamech live before he begat Noah? A, 182 years. B, 130 years. C, 500 years. You get 7 seconds. That's A, 182 years. Genesis 5:28-29 says, "And Lamech lived 182 years, and begat a son." Question 9. What was the name of the tower built in the plain of Shinar? A, Tower of Babel. B, Tower of Shiloh. C, Tower of On. You get 7 seconds. That's A, Tower of Babel. Genesis 11:4 says, "Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven." Question 10. Who was Rebekah's nurse that was buried under an oak? A, Bilhah. B, Deborah. C, Milcah. You get 7 seconds. That's B, Deborah. Genesis 35:8 says, "But Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried beneath Bethel under an oak." Question 11. Who were the sons of Nahor, Abraham's brother? A, Uz, Buz, and Kemuel. B, Lot, Haran, and Milcah. C, Peleg, Joktan, and Serug. You get 7 seconds. That's A, Uz, Buz, and Kemuel. Genesis 22:21 says, Huz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Aram. Question 12. What animal did Abraham offer instead of Isaac? A, a ram caught in a thicket. B, a young goat. C, a bullock. You get 7 seconds. That's A ram caught in a thicket. Genesis 22:13 says, "And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns." Now, question 13. What was the name of the well where Hagar met the angel of the Lord? A. Bir Lahairoi, B. Beersheba, C. En Mishpat. You get 7 seconds. That's A. Bir Lahairoi. Genesis 16:14 says, "Wherefore the well was called Bir Lahairoi." Question 14. Who was the youngest son of Nahor's wife, Milcah? A. Bethuel, B. Haran, C. Lot. You get 7 seconds. That's A. Bethuel. Genesis 22:23 says, Bethuel begat Rebekah. Question 15. Who was the father of the Amalekites? A. Eliphaz, B. Esau, C. Amalek. You get 7 seconds. That's A. Eliphaz. Genesis 36:12 says, And Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz Esau's son, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek. Question 16. Where did Jacob build an altar and call it El Elohi Israel? A. Shechem, B. Bethel, C. Peniel. You get 7 seconds. That's A. Shechem. Genesis 33:20 says, And he erected there an altar and called it El Elohi Israel. Question 17. Which of Joseph's brothers stayed behind in Egypt during the first trip? A. Simeon, B. Reuben, C. Judah. You get 7 seconds. That's A. Simeon. Genesis 42:24 says, Then he took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes. Question 18. Who was the first woman mentioned by name after Eve? A. Ada, B. Zillah, C. Both. You get 7 seconds. That's C. Both. Genesis 4:19 says, And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other Zillah. Question 19. Who named the place Peniel? A. Jacob, B. Moses, C. Joseph. You get 7 seconds. That's A. Jacob. Genesis 32:30 says, And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face. Question 20. Who was the first person in Genesis said to die in childbirth? A. Rachel, B. Tamar, C. Sarah. You get 7 seconds. That's A. Rachel. Genesis 35:19 says, And Rachel died and was buried in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. How many did you score? Share your score in the comments and tag a friend who loves Bible quizzes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next faithful quiz. See you soon.